Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. This is our podcast series that we launched this earlier this month. I'm happy to be interviewing Seher Vadera. She graduated from Modern Vasant Vihar in New Delhi into 2016, and then went to Boston University and just graduated this year in the midst of the COVID era. uh, and pursued clinical psychology, and then is interested in clinical psychology in the future. So, Seher, it's been interesting to sort of observe your journey, and of course, looking back the 4 years that you spent at BU, what are the bigger takeaways that you have in terms of the person you've become now, or the kind of resources you used on
Um,
campus?
I think to begin with, like it was overall it was a great journey. It started like be it in terms of academics or the people I met or how I grew as a person. I just think the quality of education too plays such a big role because it changes your outlook on so much. You're actively learning about different situations and events around the world. It sort of makes you more aware, and also with the students you meet, everyone's from different walks of life, different walks of life. Like, one could be from Saudi Arabia, from a more conservative background. One could be from Pakistan. One could be from Europe, super lively. And of course Americans, then Asians. There's people from all over, and everyone's got such a different journey. Everyone's got a story to tell. So sometimes it just makes you feel grateful. Sometimes it makes you aspire to do better. It makes you it honestly, yeah, it's such a great learning journey. And even though it didn't end the way I expected it to, I just think there's a lot to take away from these 4 years other than just my graduation ceremony. So
Yeah, it's quite a shame that the way it all ended this year. Uh, but I'm
it's
sure there are memories you have which are beyond just
it was a
the
great it
missing
was
out of the graduation in person
yeah.
ceremony. So tell us a little bit more about the resources you actually used early on when you were settling in, not just academic but also living in a new setting.
So I think so. I lived on campus my first year. So I was in Warren Towers, as we call it, over there, and that's basically where most freshmen live. I mean, obviously, it's open to sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but it's mostly where all the freshmen go because it's 3 towers and it's just full of freshmen, and then there's one floor connecting all. So I mean, there was orientation and stuff, but that's not exactly how I met any of my friends. It honestly happened mostly because of where I was staying. So again, like I said, there were lots of freshmen in the building, and sometimes you just happen to bump into people more than others. And so and everyone's so scared. It's intimidating being in college alone for the first time for most of us. Some may have gone to boarding school, so it may be different for them, but at least for me, I went to a day school in Delhi, so it was intimidating. I was always scared to approach someone at first, but then someone told me that they're just as scared as you are. If in case they can't approach you, it's okay to approach them. If anything, it'll make them feel better. So that definitely helped out. So I didn't use too many campus resources as such. It was just also classes in general. Like you have something to talk about, something in common, and showing interest in someone else's life. I think that's very important. Be it someone else's culture. Like, I mean, I'm from India, and people were very fascinated by that. To be honest, they all thought it was very exotic, even the accent and everything. So you just need to be open to other people and hear them out, and at the same time have something to offer. Unless you like have something to bring to the table, it's not going to attract people. So you don't have to be brilliant. I mean, I for one know that I wasn't the brightest student, and it's just you have to offer something. Unless you have
Wonderful. Yeah, that's
interest.
amazing. So good to hear that you were able to find your niche and also settle in and learn so many things about people and how you can connect with them. So my next question is more to do with settling in academically and the kind of resources you used. And then, did you go decided about studying psychology?
Actually, yes, I did.
Okay.
My bad.
And then,
I did.
how did that pan out in
So I'm not
college?
gonna lie, my first semester was hell in terms of academics. So it was a solid shift, from CBSE to the education system over there, because like I said earlier, it's a lot of active learning, whereas CBSE, you're literally taught that you have to mug up everything in the textbook and just spit it out on your exam paper. And then when you go there, it's an offense, plagiarism. So that was obviously a shift. And then just it's a lot of stuff online, be it assignments, papers, signing up for classes, figuring out your requirements. So for me, I was in touch with my TAs, like my teaching assistants, a lot more than the professors because they had more time and everything. And also, I got in touch with a few seniors. I mean, they're not exactly seniors in the literal sense, but sophomores, juniors, maybe someone I knew from back home. So that was helpful, because they know how to go about it. They can help you see what your degree advice report is, what they call it, be, which basically it shows all your requirements, what you need, what you can take. So they helped me through that, and then once I got the hang of it, it was much easier. But it's okay to be confused at first. I mean, it took me a while for sure, but by the second semester, I finally got an idea of requirements and credits and everything. So it was
Fantastic.
challenging, but honestly, now that I come to think of it, that it's such a great education system. Honestly, it's wow.
And also beyond psychology, the gen eds and other courses, which courses do you find memorable beyond psych?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I took this really random course. It was the philosophy of architecture, and it was primarily a writing course, but it was based on the philosophy of architecture. We had to read books about buildings and how like what's good architecture in one's eyes, and what would one say about this. And I think the beauty of it was that I had to leave the classroom to finish my assignments. Like I had to go pick certain buildings in Boston, and I'd have to go analyze them and write about that from like someone else's perspective. So it would help me gain that understanding as well as kind of shape my own. I wasn't exactly following on. Maybe I liked something out of this one, something out of that one. So I took that course, and now honestly, not that I know much about architecture, I'm still pretty oblivious. But like it just changes the way you look at buildings sometimes. It's like it's an interesting perspective. I won't say I
Right.
know very much. I still have a long way to go if I was interested, but it's just interesting. And then I took another and I took another philosophy course. It was about existentialism, and it definitely made me question myself a lot. But I guess that's a part of the challenge altogether. you
All
know.
right. So now tell us a little bit about psych. And did you go thinking you'd be interested in clinical psychology? And what are the different tracks students typically explore? So this is more like an educational question for our listeners who are interested in psychology. So yeah, go ahead and elaborate.
The good thing about liberal arts over there is that you can try out different courses and then decide what you want to stick with. So for me, even though I'm majored in psych right now, it doesn't mean I have to necessarily stick to clinical psychology. I could get into marketing. I could get into, social psychology. I could get into organizational psychology, clinical psychology, counseling. Be it career counseling or something. It just opens up so many options. And my favorite course I took throughout college was hands down this course called Drugs and Behavior, which was with my favorite professor again. It's basically you study the human body, so it's like you're studying the physiological effects of drugs as well as like the psychological effects of it. And like I found this course so interesting that I went up to my professor once the course was over, and I was like, and he used to talk about his lab all the time, and I was so fascinated by the research he did that I just asked him, I was like, I really want to work in your lab. And he sent me the application. I filled it out. And then that summer, I worked with him as well as another lab. So it was just, one thing led to another. So it's not that everything's separate, it's all kind of intertwined. So, it maybe that's not how it always works out. But I think faculty over there also, it's fascinating how much they can actually help you. I never knew that my
Makes
freshman year.
sense. Amazing. So, if a student is interested in clinical psychology, what are the courses, as in requirements, and what do you actually do in terms of practicum and apply or do internships or sort of do other activities that help you understand what it's like in practice?
So, for me, I actually didn't do too much clinical work. A lot of it was research based. So my was this last summer? Yeah, last summer I worked at two labs. One was with this professor. It was this psychiatric facility called McLean Hospital, and over there we were, as awful as it sounds, we were using lab rats to experiment the effects of drugs and addiction. So we were studying addiction. So that was one, and then I just happened to come across this other internship which sounded really interesting at over at Harvard University. That was a lab, and that was social psychology, where we studied how different people from different cultures perceive other cultures. So we'd call them in, tricking them into thinking that we're doing a DNA ancestry study, and then maybe if a Caucasian man walked in, we tell him, he's 7% Italian or something. We'd want to see what their reaction is. So it was more of an observational study than anything else, but it was interesting, honestly, and again, great exposure.
Right. So where are you headed next?
Oh my gosh, honestly, after this
Yeah.
year, that's a big
Right.
question mark.
Yeah.
But for me, as of
So sorry.
now,
But yeah, I guess.
for now, I have a job at this. I mean, I don't have it yet, but I'm still in talks with this with someone over at this psychiatric facility in Delhi. It's called in Gurgaon. It's called Sukoon. So I think it opened up about 5 6 years ago, and I think they have a more progressive take on mental health care. And honestly, after this pandemic, a lot more people will be needing it. So as of now, I get to work there, and I want to take my GR. So I took my GRE in December, and I wasn't too happy with my score. So I'm gonna take it this year, with no distractions, no school, nothing,
Sure.
and hopefully, if I get the score I want, then I'll apply for my masters and head there in the fall. Let's see, fingers crossed. But that's what I plan for
All the
now. Because
best with, yeah, with all of that, and I hope campuses reopen by 2021 at least. So yes, I'm switching gears now, and I'm going to get you to answer a few rapid fire questions. First thing, if you were to pick three words that describe your strengths, what adjectives would you pick?
my strengths would be oh god, when it comes to myself, I'm the worst with answering this. I think communication, you know um I want to say communication. I also think hands-on work is my strong point more than, I'm not very good with academia. So after those 2 years, after that summer with those two labs and research, I realized it's not for me. I
Mhm.
want to work with people, not rats. So that's definitely and I think another one would be, oh my god, when it comes to me, I honestly blank out. I'd want to say smart work more than hard work. I'm I always look for the shortcut, as horrible as that sounds. And sometimes that's worked out for the best, in a way that I've seen someone struggle so much, for the same thing, and I didn't have to do so much. And at the same time, I did 5 6 other things, and I managed to achieve the same thing as someone else. So I definitely think smart
That's
work.
great. If you were to look at your life in terms of high school, college, and now back home, what are the things that you feel were moments of learning, or where you made a mistake, or you kind of goofed up in some ways and it was embarrassing? What were the reflections from such moments?
My freshman year, my first semester, definitely taught me a lot. Because when I went there, I was under this impression that college is just a 4 year party. And then I got there, and obviously it hit me like a truck, because it involved a lot of hard work, a lot of hours of reading, studying, all that. So that definitely put me in my place, because my first semester, my GPA wasn't all that great. I more than just feeling bad about it, I was embarrassed, because like I'd done so much to get through to college, and then it was all going to waste. So then after that, I decided to pull my socks up, and I was like, this is not how I want this to go, because it's expensive, it's good education, not everyone has access to it. I felt privileged to have that opportunity, so I wanted to make the most of it. And seeing the way I went my first semester, that's not how I wanted to go. And like, for example, they say if you spend too much time in your dorm or your apartment or whatever, you're doing something wrong. For me, it was the opposite. I was never in there, but I was never in the library or on campus either. I was just all over the town. But that, so I definitely think your top priority should be academics. You're there for that, and I mean, funds, not funds aren't going to go away. Your friends aren't going to go away, but you only get that chance once. You need to make the most of it. And also, I think setting short-term goals, that in my opinion, I feel like that works out a lot better than setting long-term goals. Because I mean, if anything, coronavirus has taught us is that anything can hit you at some unexpected point, and then you won't know what to do moving forward. So for me, whether you're taking a course, instead of thinking about your final GPA, you should just think about getting an A on that paper or A on that exam. Set it short, and then the end result will be good, which was something I also struggled with initially, but then I learned it the hard way.
Fascinating. I'm going to ask you one last question, and it's more to do with the times we live in. And you've touched upon the coronavirus and the impact and the work, or whatever, the way it impacts the work that one does, or the well-being, mental well-being that one has. What are you doing personally to be a better person in terms of mind, body, and soul?
I started meditating, so there's a first. I started meditating because when I just came back, I was so upset. I was constantly in this negative mood. I didn't get to say bye to so many people. At that time, my spring break had been cancelled. I didn't expect graduation or the rest of the semester to be cancelled, honestly, because we were told that we'd be back in April to resume classes, and that clearly didn't happen. So I was just so bummed out about the way it happened. And it ended so abruptly. So yeah, I didn't get to say bye to the city properly, and I love Boston. By the end of it, I could easily say Boston's one of my favorite cities in the world. And there's so many people your age, so much knowledge in that city. Just such a great city. But I didn't get to say bye to it. I didn't get to say bye to my professors. A lot of them who I wanted to meet before leaving. It just didn't work out as I planned it out. But so after that 1 month, I was constantly in a bad mood. And then I was like, Seher, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do to change it. You can curse whoever for however long you want, but it's just gonna ruin your mood. No one else is benefiting out of this. I mean, you're not benefiting out of this, and neither is anyone else. So I started meditating. I tried finding ways to keep myself busy. So I was into art a lot about 10 years ago, before I got caught up with high school and everything. So I got back into that. And I guess because thanks to my education, I became more and more interested in psychology. Like I still have so much to learn. I don't think I've learned all of it yet. So you come across a random article on mental health or just about something going on in the world. You can always connect it all somehow. So just being in touch with the world, sitting from your bedroom is something I learned thanks to online courses.
That's
And
great.
yeah.
Super. So thank you so much, Sahar. I think this has been a wonderful conversation and a catch up. All the best for the future. I hope
Thank
your plans for
you.
grad school do work out. And of
Thank
course, we
you. It
will
was
want
great
to
talking.
invite you for some of the panels that we are planning to organize and look forward
Okay,
to
great.
discussing that in the future. Bye.